Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Rossini's Guillaume Tell, which was live from the Royal Opera House. The conductor was Antonio Papanno, the production was done by Damiano Micheletto, the sets were done by Paolo Fantin, the costumes were done by Carla Tetti, and the lights were handled by Alessandro Carletti. I was anticipating this particular production of Guillaume Tell live from the Royal Opera House because it had a star-studded cast headed by Gerald Finley as the titular hero. I'll gladly talk about all the singers much later in this review, but first, my thoughts on the production. Overall, it had a dark, creepy, eerie, and absolutely foreboding atmosphere. This was to show that the Swiss people were under a lot of oppression thanks to the Austrians. And during the final part of the overture, we see Gemitel playing with his toy soldiers, and interspersed with his activity, we also see a comic book of William Tell, which is obviously in English. This is to show that Jemmy hero worships his father so much, even to the point where we see an actor playing the historical William Tell come to life and placing arrows on each table to show that he was basically the present William Tell's predecessor. To add to the darkness of this particular production, we even see Guillaume Tell, Walter Fürst, and many other men smearing themselves in blood while being shirtless, probably to drive home the fact that Guillaume, Walter, and many of the Swiss people are basically people of nature who use the earth in order to cultivate and to even get inspiration from, especially when it comes to having their independence at risk from the Austrians. Even more so, this is to show that Guillaume and his men have a sort of guerrilla-like tactic in order to attack Gessler and his men. And speaking of Gessler, as opposed to the Swiss people's more simple and overall more earthy attire, Gessler and his men are a lot more militaristic, not only in their looks, but also in their manners. On top of that, Gessler's men also show a great amount of sleaze in everything they do, and it's not even subtle. We have the displeasure of seeing Rodolphe shooting old man Mertal, and even he and his men attempting to rape a woman, which was no wonder why this particular production drew in a lot of controversy. It was because of that one scene. However, despite all the controversial aspects of this particular production, I still have to say that it handles the dark themes of oppression and lack of freedom so well, and the costumes were really well done. As I stated before, Guillaume and his people wear a lot of simple costumes, while Gessler and his men are in finer attire, and let's not forget about Princess Mathilde. She herself wears such a lovely ensemble, whether she wears turquoise blue or even her red trench coat. She looks absolutely lovely. There were even some moments of black comedy, like when Jemmy shot his arrow so high that it almost landed on Guillaume's chest, but it didn't really hit him. Instead, he was just faking the whole thing. And that particular moment was kind of hilarious, and it was also really adorable to see Jemmy reading his comics, playing his toys, and being like every other 10-year-old boy. So overall, there were times I felt a little bit uneasy with this production, but I managed to have a very fun ride from beginning to end because it managed to be exciting. Sure, there were times that it lacked subtlety, but despite all that, it was still kind of interesting to see what Damiano Micheletto's vision was of Guillaume Tell. And to top it all off, the atmosphere was actually pretty good, mostly to show that these were people in a lot of oppression and they want a hero to save them. And on top of that, I was rather satisfied with the ending, which managed to have something really hopeful, and it was the only area where we see lots of light and people just kneeling to the ground and becoming one with the earth, probably to show a lot of symbolism in this particular opera. Now that they found freedom, they can become one with nature. So as I said, the production did have some pretty good ideas. However, I'm not really a major fan of this particular production, but I still have to give a lot of credit to Damiano Micheletto and his crew for making this production of Guillaume Tell come to life. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Gerald Finley as Guillaume Tell. What more can I say about this particular gentleman? I truly love the color of his voice. Like I said before in my Thais review, it has that Helden baritone richness, but at the same time, it has a lot of appeal, lyricism, and absolutely amazing musicianship. He was and will always be a peerless musician and an equally virile and fine singing actor. Yes, there were times that he did portray Guillaume Tell as a reluctant grouch, but I still have to give him a lot of credit for how he was able to embody this iconic hero, and he did so in a way which made him stand out superbly. There was not one vocal flaw I found in Monsieur Finley, and he was the absolute star, showing a lot of strength in his skills as a singer, and of course, a fine amount of involvement as an actor. Enkelada Scusa was absolutely fine as Hedvige. Yes, there were some moments of fruitiness in her voice, and there were times that her tone was a little bit unsteady, but I definitely love the richness of her dramatic mezzo voice. This is a voice that is really ideal for all of these motherly figures and even a lot of these dramatic characters, and I thought that Enkelada Scusa handled this role with a lot of dignity, endurance, and of course her great artistry as a singing actress. I can tell that she was so involved in not only the drama, but also in the music she had to sing, thus proving herself to be absolutely flawless as a singing actress. She managed to use her strengths to the best of her abilities, and this was an absolutely great performance from Madame Scusa. John Osborne was lyrically heroic as Arnold, all thanks to his high singing lyric tenor voice, which managed to be homogeneous throughout all the registers. But more than anything, I thought he was at his strongest when he hits the high notes. They sound so clarion and clear that I was practically on the edge of my seat. What I've always admired about John Osborne is his peerless musicianship. He was an absolutely dedicated and diligent singing actor, and I have to give that man a lot of credit for everything he did. He was hardworking in his craft. He threw himself in this particular role, and he brought in a lot of youth, passion, and so much energy, which was really positive to Arnold. I definitely enjoyed his performance as Arnold, and it's all thanks to his flawless technique and his great charisma as a singing actor. Mylene Bestraum was absolutely fabulous as Princess Matilde with her full-toned, full lyric / spinto soprano voice, which just blossoms like a garden of roses. She certainly stood out exceptionally. She was an equally strong performer, not only with her great gifts as an exceptional singer, but also her involvement as an actress. There is a nobility and dignity evidenced in Mylene Bestraum's performance as Matilda. I can also sense some moments where she has some fragility within her character, especially when she finds out that Guillaume Tell has been taken hostage by Gessler and his men. There were so many great moments with Frau Bestraum as Matilda that I also have to give her a lot of credit for everything she accomplished. And of course, her chemistry with John Osborne's Arnold was absolutely flawless. With John Osborne's high-singing, full lyric tenor voice and Mylene Bestraum's full-toned, gorgeous, and rich lyrical spinto soprano voice, their voices blended like two archangels singing when one enters the gates of heaven, and they definitely showed a lot of hard work. Erik Halfarsson was simply put a dedicated actor when he portrayed the role of Mechtal. Yes, his basso profundo voice is now on the aged and shaky side, but despite all that, I still have to commend him for how dedicated he is as a wonderfully charismatic basso profundo. He was able to bring in a lot of energy with old man Mechtal, and I definitely felt a lot of pain with his character, especially when it comes to him making sure that Arnold does not make any of the wrong or even stupid decisions, because Arnold is still young and Mechtal is older and more experienced than his own son. And as I stated before, even though I did find Erik Halfarsson's voice on the weathered side and felt like his voice didn't have that focus and that sheen as it did many years ago, I still have to give a lot of kudos to him for everything he accomplished. He brought in an insurmountable amount of performance energy to Mechtal, and he was able to make the best out of this character part. Alexander Vinogradov grew so exceptionally as a basso cantante / bass baritone in the role of Walter Fürst. His voice seemed a lot fuller in comparison to his performance as Escamillo at the Zurich Opera House, and that's definitely saying something. He grew exceptionally as a singer. And yes, even though I would have loved to have fuller sounding voices like Nikolai Gyaurov or Kolos Kovacs, I still have to give it up to Signore Vinogradov, because he was an absolutely fine, eloquent, and elegant singer with a velvety voice which does not bark nor wobble. He certainly had a lot of great focus, and he also brought in a lot of dignity to Walter Fürst, evidenced by his charisma and his overall tall and handsome appearance. Nicolas Courjal was gloriously sleazy and at times hammy as Gessler. He was able to portray this particular character like a comic book villain. He was able to bring in a lot of sleaze and so much slime in Gessler, and there were times that my hair stood on end when he entered the stage. At the same time, he had a sort of malevolent grace about him, which made him all the more alluring. And of course, I cannot forget about his full-toned, handsome, and absolutely well-focused basso cantante voice, which he has been very well known for, especially considering the fact that Monsieur Courjal is very well known for singing roles like Philippe le Second from Verdi's Don Carlos, just to name a few characters he's done before. And in terms with everything he did with Gessler, I thought he was able to do a very fine job. And I can tell he had a lot of fun with this particular character. I can sense the overall joy he was able to have when portraying Gessler. I can sense the enthusiasm Monsieur Courjal has as a singing actor. and I can sense that he has worked so hard to make this role come to life that I have to give him an A+ for effort, an A+ for charisma, and of course, an A+ for an overall great sense of dedication to his craft. Samuel Dale Johnson was a charismatic performer as he portrayed the pain, the guilt, and the anguish Leopold the shepherd experiences, and he was able to make the best out of this particular character part. And it's all thanks to his beautifully toned and amazing lyric baritone voice. And Mr. Johnson certainly has a brilliant future ahead of him. I would really love to hear Samuel Dale Johnson in a lot more cavalier baritone roles, as roles like Conte di Luna, Francesco Moore, Fortas, Donna, Wolfram von Eschenbach, Marcello from La Boheme, and even Eugene Onegin don't really seem that far for him. I can definitely sense a great future with him in these particular roles, and it's all in courtesy of his ever-blossoming career. I also have to give a lot of kudos to Michael Lessiter for doing a very fine job with The Huntsman, and it's all thanks to his bass baritone voice, in which he was able to manage portraying this small yet absolutely delightful part. Enea Scala was so full of charm and charisma as Rudy, the fisherman, and it's all thanks to that gorgeous lyric tenor voice that he was able to make a great impression in this particular character. I can sense the joy he has in the first act, even though his character did come off as joyously drunk, and I can definitely tell he had a ball embodying this small yet delightful part. Yes, there were times his high notes didn't really sound in tune, but his efforts got a lot better later in the opera and even later in his song, so much so to the point that I had to give him a lot of credit for showing a lot of endurance as an opera singer. That is certainly commendable for someone as charismatic and charming like Enea Scala, and I would love to see a lot more of him in the near future, because he has one of the finest lyric tenor voices ever, and he shows a lot of energy in what he did in his performance as Rudy the fisherman. Michael Colvin was a handsome Rodolphe, and it's all thanks to his lyric tenor voice that he was able to make this villainous lackey come alive as a character. What's so exceptional about Michael Colvin is the way he was able to use said lyric tenor voice. It was focused, clean, and absolutely handsome all the way through. And he knew how to portray the sleazy and dark aspects of Gessler's lackey so well. Sofia Fomina stole the show as Jemmy Tell with her lyric coloratura soprano voice and her great skills as an actress. She made this particular role her own, and I thought she was a lot better in this role in comparison to her performance as Olympia from Le Comte d'Hoffmann live from that very same opera house. And I thought she was able to bring in so much energy to Jemmy, whether it be in her acting or her singing. She certainly deserves a lot of exceptionally high marks. So overall, the singing from all the cast members was excellent. From Gerald Finley to Samuel Dale Johnson to Michael Lessiter, each and every one of these singers showed a lot of strength, endurance, charisma, charm, and absolutely great musicianship in everything they accomplished. And they were able to embody each of their roles so exceptionally all the way through. And the conducting done by Antonio Pappano was absolutely excellent. He made sure that the orchestra played together so well, and simultaneously, he made sure that the singers, the orchestra, and the chorus were in sync, and of course, the chorus and orchestra of the Royal Opera House were fabulous all the way through, and it's all thanks to their great gifts as musicians and artists. So overall, despite my mixed feelings with Damiano Micheletto's production of Guillaume Tell, I still have to give it to him and to all his crew members and all the cast members, and especially Antonio Pappano, for making this production of Guillaume Tell come to life at the Royal Opera House. And for those of you who caught this particular production of Rossini's Guillaume Tell live from the Royal Opera House, what'd you think of it? Did you feel like Gerald Finley stole the show as Guillaume Tell? Was there another singer who stole his thunder, whether it be Encalada Scusa, Sofia Fomina, Mylene Bestraum, Alexander Vinogradov, Eric Halverson, John Osborne, Nicolas Courjal, Samuel Dale Johnson, Eneas Scala, or Michael Colvin? Or did you feel like there was someone or something that just didn't really stand out or even stood out like a sore thumb? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in much later for my review of another transmission of Rossini's Guillaume Tell, and this time it's via radio, live from the Teatro Massimo di Palermo. So until then, good night, everybody.